everybody. Welcome back to the It's On podcast with Obel
and Naika.
Today, we have the privilege to chat with an accomplished, empowering, and decorated young woman. We will be speaking with Patricia Desert, who's a published author, social entrepreneur, president of Safe Souls Ministry, CEO of La Distinction Co., holding a bachelor in psychology and 2 masters in social work and health and wellness.
Apart from all that, Patricia is a wife and a mother of 2, and also our dear cousin from our dad's side of the family. We're incredibly proud of her for all she's accomplished and the work she's doing in our community. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the It's On podcast with
Obel,
Naika,
Patricia.
Yay! Oh, that's so good. That means you listen to our podcast sometime because you know to say Patricia.
Right. Yeah, you were right on time.
The clue. You know I listen.
Yeah, very smart young lady. So today, guys, we are so happy because we have our older cousin in our dad's side of the family joining us to talk about some serious conversation about mental health. We're so happy to have her. We have been waiting. Like, I feel like all of our listeners have been waiting on this interview because we have kind of been advertising it, but we have been advertising it for the longest, but finally we have you here and we are so excited.
Finally, I am super excited.
I'm excited and anxious.
Oh no, trust me, you'll be fine.
It's like talking about mental health with your little cousin, and then you're like, what kind of question they're gonna ask me?
I know it's such a touchy topic, so I can understand we have to be very sensitive when we talk about mental health. And I must be honest, like I'm very ignorant when it comes to like the topic of mental health. So there's a lot that I'm not knowledgeable about. So excuse me if I ask the wrong question, but I'm just gonna like ask question, and if you want, you can correct me on like how to properly ask it, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are ignorant like me when it comes to like the whole topic of mental health.
Okay? You're fine.
I hope
You'll be fine.
Okay, well, before we like get into the serious stuff, like we want to know about you. Like we give an intro about you, but we want you to tell us about you and what you have accomplished, because you've accomplished some great things, and we want you to let us know about.
Let the people know what we already know.
Something though, that's always like the hardest thing for me to do. Not because like I have any type of like some kind of feelings about not talking about myself, because I do talk about myself sometimes, most times. It's like every time somebody asks me, tell us what you do, what you've accomplished. And then I feel all of a sudden I feel lost, because I'm like, okay, I study random things. Like I'm always in school. Where do I start? So what part of my life do you want to know?
Anything you want to share with us?
No. Let's be direct. Let's get to the fun part. Let's learn about your marriage. You're married and you have kids. So, you can talk about that. Let's start with that.
Okay, yes. So I am married. I've been married for 10 years now, 12 years now. Oh my God, wow. I'm forgetting.
Oh my God.
Long. I've been married for 12 years, and we met when we used to live in the same neighborhood, and we're still in high school. So we were friends for like a couple of years, and then boyfriend and girlfriends, childhood stuff. And when we came here, he came here before me, and then we met again. And then we went to a rebellious age with our parents trying to keep us away from each other. And then we got married. Wow. And now we have 2 beautiful children. I think everybody know my daughter.
Love them. They're like the cutest kids ever.
Yeah. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and then I have a 1-year-old boy, Jade, Chloe, and Kingsley. And they're my life. They're the center of my universe. And I think because of them, God used them. I think because I've always had a dream of being a mom since I was like a child. I think I talk about it a lot. God used them to kind of just transform my life in a way that I never thought possible. Wow. And in school, I'm a social worker, a clinician. And I'm also in school for health and wellness coaching. And for work, I work at SafeSo. I work at Distinction Co., my company that I created along with my daughter. And I work at Perspective Health as a therapist. So I do a lot of random things. I'm also still at Columbia, but I'm not working this semester. I'm in plenty of spaces.
Wow. Listen, she's multiversed.
I want to talk about your many master degrees.
It's only 1.5.
Well, 1.5 is more than we have. So, you have a master degree in what exactly?
I have a master's degree in social work, science of social work. So it's not the typical social work degree. I did macro. I did my concentration in macro social work, but I also I got the clinical and the social enterprise administration part. And then right now I'm doing a second master's in health and wellness coaching.
Patricia's about to coach all of us, okay? And she's a great coach. She coaches me every day.
So for those who are not really we don't know anything about the social work what is it?
Macro social work?
Macro.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about it exactly?
So in social work, you have several fields, and then the possibility are very endless when you finish school. And when you go to school, you have several options. You can concentrate in direct practice, which is, I'm in social work and I'm going to go into therapy as a clinician. Like I want to be a clinician. I want to do direct care practice. That's one highway that you can take it. Some people also choose to go the policy route where you work in government, or even if not in government, like you work in terms of creating policy wherever with like institutions. And what I did is social enterprise administration. And the type of things that you study when you do social enterprise administration, you study business. It's almost like a business degree with like a social work aspect of it. So we studied, I had classes like in nonprofit foundation, finances, entrepreneurship. So you take all of these classes. So basically they prepare you if you want to leave school after social work and then build your own company or start your own company or go work for a foundation or these kind of organization, that you have the foundation as a social worker to be a supervisor or to be a manager or anywhere. So it prepares you for that. Whereas if I went to school and said that I wanted to do direct practice, then you only be getting clinical classes. And then when you're done, you be prepped for clinical work, not necessarily administration. Some people does clinical practice and then still have the administrative skills. But, it's always better when you get it from school instead of trying to learn it on your own.
Okay. It reminds me of that show with Lisa Ray on HBO. Was she a social work that worked for an organization? You know
what
that show
was that?
You like that show?
Are you talking about Insecure?
Insecure.
Oh, no, never watched Insecure.
No, I don't think so. I don't think she was a social worker. She just worked for a nonprofit.
The first season she had a master in, I think her background was in like social work. Yeah, it kind of remind me of that, but I don't know, maybe. But
maybe
still impressive.
Yes, it's you can do so many things with social work. Actually, so many things.
Exactly. It's very well rounded. And I think you have like a whole base of knowledge and you just choose which field you just kind of like want to get into. And also, we are here to talk about mental health. We want to know, like, what is something that why do you gravitate so much towards mental health, and what is your experience with mental health that makes you gravitate it? And I know now she's my partner, guys. For everybody who didn't know, yes, that's the partner, my cousin. She worked with, you and I work closely with Safe. So, but what is something? Tell the people, like, what kind of made you, I guess, care so much about mental health in general?
I think for my life, it was very important to me. And I did not know, it was like mental health. I just knew that I was always interested in my, like, what's going on inside of me, my feelings, always connected with my emotions. And that's why I've been journaling since I was little. Like I would just sit down when everybody's sleeping with my bougie and stuff, Kendall in Haiti, just writing stuff. And I've always been connected to my feelings and my emotion. And I didn't know that there was a field, about it. And then you come here and then you start studying all of these things in school. And one day I was trying like all of the wrong major. No offense, Obel.
None taken. Go ahead.
The medical field, I try all of this. That's why when I graduated college, I had so many credits.
Oh,
wow.
So
what gravitated me toward mental health is like my own experience with it, where I was doing so well in life, in everything, and like people around me would like, oh yeah, she's great, or she's done that, she's very smart, she's like president of my school, like wherever I am in school. So, but I was always like broken because there are a lot of unresolved issues with myself, things that I never addressed, things that I just pushed down. And then you think it's all about like getting the grades, getting the thing. But it's just like, I've always felt like it's not enough. Always felt like it's not enough. Like I reached that, you graduated and I'm like, what's now? Like you always like, what now? What's next? Like I don't feel it. Like I would walk into a room and people are like, oh my God, great job. And I don't feel it. I was never connected with the things that I was pursuing, but I was so hungry, I would say, at pursuing them. Like I pursue things. I just want to build up me and achieve as many things as possible. So then I get into social work and started studying like mental health. Even in undergrad, when I started studying psychology, and everything started to make sense. I remember when I took my first psychology class. After you get the first psychology class, the one that captivated me was abnormal psych. I'm like, this is my thing. It's so weird. It's like abnormal psych. They're talking about, all of the behaviors that we have, all of the like unresolved issues, abandonment issues, attachment issues, all of these things that we started studying. And I'm like, this sounds like me. Like I come to class, I'm like, the professor's talking about my life right now.
Wow. I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you, did you start diagnosing yourself? Because I know every time somebody takes psych, I know when I was taking psych in school, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm like this.
But I was not the kind of student that was like, I have this issue. Like, this in my class, there's always this student who comes to class asking for the professor to diagnose. No, I kept my stuff to myself, but I was silently diagnosing myself. Yeah,
okay.
No. Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wrote something on the chat because
Gotcha.
Yeah, continue. Patricia.
Yeah. So then this is when it started to get stronger for me, and I knew like I was gonna stay there, but I still wanted to study many things. But I know it has to revolve around mental health, spiritual health, emotional health, and right now where I am, everything in my life revolves around faith and wellness, faith and holistic health for women specifically, because I feel like I have the personal experience around that. I studied that. I read many books about that. When I started switching my reading, I used to read a lot. And then there was a point in college when I was reading fiction and I was like very bored while I was reading books. which never happened to me. And then I switched, somebody suggested to me, maybe you should switch genre. Maybe you're not interested in, you know, fiction books anymore. And then I started reading psych books and self-help books and all of these things. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I don't see myself switching to do, I will probably still be studying a lot of other things, but it's always gonna come down to like faith and wellness for me because of my personal experience with it.
Okay.
That's great. That's great. I love how you kind of like show your journey of kind of exploring and figuring it out and actually getting to that point, which is so nice to see. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people can relate because they feel so lost and they don't really know what they're feeling. But did you always know in the moment what you were feeling, or did you kind of like now figure it out? Okay, that's what I was feeling like at this age. You're kind of looking back, or whatever age it was, and you're like, okay, so I was not myself, or I was, you know, feeling all these sort of emotions. I don't know if you
There was a time where I did, not too long ago actually, in my 20s, where I did a mapping of my journey because I was so lost studying all of the things and I couldn't settle on a major. In college, I switched my major more than like 4 or 5 times. At some point, though, like I remember one time I had a conversation with an advisor, and she's like, "Well, if you stick to psychology, you can you can include all of the other credit and do a concentration." I think at some point I think she probably like low key got tired of me coming and be like, I don't want to do this major anymore. I want to try this one. Yeah. So I feel so lost because I was studying, and I was always someone who's interested in studying multiple things. But, you know, you have to pick a major. You have to pick something. So I did not always know where I was going to go. I did not always know that it was going to be social work. Did not always go that it was going to be health and wellness coaching down the line. But all I know that it had to do with human behavior. It had to do with like the inner work. It had to do with connecting with someone personally and all of these kind of things. And I did a mapping of my journey to find the things in my life that were always consistent. And what I found after, you know, you have to write like random things. What is the one thing that's always consistent for you since you were little until you were an adult? And what I found is that writing has always been consistent to me. My intrigue with human behavior, I mean, not even it was not in that word, has always been consistent to me because I love like watching people, observing people and do these things. Like talking, interacting has always been consistent. So I'm like, okay, so it's going to be teaching, it's going to be something to do with mental health, and it's going to be writing. And that sums up my whole life. So everything I do, I know it has to touch on one of these passions.
As you're saying that, I remember you bringing me to work with you one time when I went to New York. And I
wait, where was I? Hold on, wait, hold a second. Where was I?
You were. Why didn't you come? Actually, you went somewhere. You both were in New York at that time.
We were both in New York, and I'm like, I am gonna come. Okay, that's what happened. What happened was I was in Philly, and I knew that Philly was close to New York. And I'm like, cousin, I'm going to come see you. Like, I'm going to take the bus and try to come see you because you just had a baby at that time.
I came too, though. I came.
Yeah, you came, but then I stayed longer. I think Obel actually had to take a flight in New York. She actually took her flight in New York. We dropped her at the airport, and I stayed longer.
Right.
And then, I'm trying to remember what happened.
It doesn't matter.
You stayed for that day. She stayed back. You took the flight. And then you left, and she stayed back for that day, but you had the train in the afternoon because you were going to go someplace else, and you came to work with me, right?
Yeah, I came to work with you. Obel left way before then because I think Obel left on a Saturday, and then I guess I stayed on a Sunday. I think you had to work during the weekend. And I came to work with you, so I spent like the time with you. And I just remember you being counseling somebody or something. I don't know what exactly you were doing. But I just remember
Supervision.
you being here for someone that was in need. It was kind of like an emergency call, and you just had to like be there for that person. So like that's just one of my fondest memory of you, and like you doing your job. And I'm like,
that is
you really
sweet.
care.
Dang.
I like J. Chloe, because J. Chloe, not too long ago, she said that, like, she remembers when she was in New York, I used to take her to work with me on Sundays because she doesn't go to daycare on Sundays. She's like, Ma, I remember when we were in New York, you used to take me to work.
I feel left out.
No one was at the office, only her. Like she was the only one there, and she was here for her patient or her client. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she really care about these people. That's really nice. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
What I want to ask is, a lot of us struggle with achieving a goal and achieving a dream. We get so focused like on a dream, and once we don't like accomplish it at the time that we want to accomplish it, it kind of like mess with our mental health. So I just want to ask, like, have you ever experienced something like that where you had a dream or a goal where you were so eager to accomplish it, but it was not the time for you to like accomplish it, so you were kind of going through a phase of like, oh my gosh, this is messing with my mental health? Like, have you ever had to deal with, something like that?
Yes. And in so many level, I had personal goal for myself, to, how do I put this? So in terms of goals for professional life and things like that, I have come to a state where I'm good with flexibility. I stop putting pressure on myself to reach a certain milestone, because I keep feeling like things are changing. It's like, I think that this is the goal that I had, that I wanted to finish at this time. And then boom, I'm pregnant and I have to defer. I have to defer and I have to wait. Then I don't graduate at the age that I thought I was going to graduate, but I graduate later and it's still good. So I started seeing like a pattern where, goals change, the outcome change, but life is still good, to some extent. So in terms of professional, in the professional aspect, I guess I've just been adjusting and stay within things that I love and been adjusting. But on a personal level, I struggle with that, aside from my spirituality. But I feel like my spirituality keep me from like breaking down. I don't know if I'm making sense. So I have personal goal for my personality wise, behavior wise. I would say I'm one of those people who are very aware of my flaws. And not because like I've heard it, a lot from other people, but it's because sometimes when people say you do that thing that I hate, or I don't like the way, like I listen to people and I'm actually like that. So I still get offended, I don't, and I still get petty, but I recognize that person is telling the truth. And I think that's one thing that God gave me in a way so that I can keep growing personally and in private, and not get too offended by people who might not like the person that I am, but still work on improving myself. So I've had personal goal that I don't reach. And every time I think that I'm making improvement, and I'm like, boom, I'm just right back to square one. And how I've been dealing with that is keeping myself centered around like the word of God and what God says about me, and how like no matter what goals that I have about myself that I do not reach, that doesn't make me less of a person. That does not decrease my worth as a person. And seeing it like that kind of just keep me from seeing like, oh, there's no hope for me. Because I did reach that point in my life where like something personal that I was struggling with so much that I attempted to take my own life. So I think for that point for me, I'm like, I'm never going to get to a point of desperation no matter what it is. And that's my boundary. Like, I'm never going to get hopeless for, you know, whether it's like relationship, whether it's like professional, whether it's for a job, like whatever it is. And the only way that I can keep doing that is because I keep focusing on God so much and reading the word and just waiting for him to tell me things. And that has helped me from feeling like, you know, I'm not successful or I'm not where I want to be. Like, you know, there's no more hope. Like, I have to do this, kind of things like that.
Nice. You mentioned something that, you know, most people do like face in their life. Like some people face in their life. And I feel like most people are facing that in their life right now, where we get to a point where the thing is, the burden is just so heavy on us that we just want to end our life. We just feel like it's not even worth it anymore. So like, how did you come to a point, like, because you said you almost tried to, you know, take your own life. Like, what made you stop at that moment? Like, what made you realize, like, no, I'm not going to take my life away over this?
And I want to double stack that question as well. And with that, you mentioned that, you know, the word of God actually kept you grounded and you were focused on that as well. Like, is there, let's say someone that has been doing that, but it's not really working for them solely, like what other options? Because I know in the Caribbeans, it's kind of hard. I mean, for Black people, period, but you know, we're Caribbeans. But like, is there other ways to kind of like cope and try to get help with when it comes to dealing with such mental
yeah. First of all, let me say I got a lot of therapy. I don't want to put it out like the word of God kept me whole. I had a whole lot of therapy. From before I went to the hospital to when I came out of the hospital, I was in just like therapy all the way. And sometimes I would just stop after a year. I'll stop and then, you know, things start happening in my life again. And I feel like my anxiety starts to get too much. And then I book another session with another therapist or something. So I've always, actually, only the past 3 years that I haven't been to therapy. And I feel like because I'm at a point where I'm like, you know, I kind of just understand my own coping skills and how to manage and how to understand myself. And I'm reading the word and that's enough for me now. But back then it was not enough because I was still praying a lot, but it was not enough because I was very broken. So Nana, what you said, I did not stop myself. I actually went through it. And then, you know, after I took the pill, I drank a whole bottle of Tylenol with cooking wine, mind you. So after I did that, I went to the, you know, I started vomiting in JC because we had already been married and it was like, you know, early marriage. We did not have kids yet. And then he came home and found me and then he gave me milk. Because, you know, in our culture, you give people milk when they have poison and stuff. And then I vomited some of it. But then when I was like in so much pain, he called 911 and I went to the hospital. And that's when they said, you know, if we don't pump your stomach, you're going to die tonight and all of these things. So at that point, when they said that, I realized like the extent of what I did. I'm like, oh my God, I was hopeless for a while. And then I actually went through it, you know, because I didn't think that I would get to a point where I would want to stop. Because I love my life. I used to have like girls' night out. I was doing well in school and all of these things, but I was just almost like, I was dealing with a lot of anger issue and attachment issue and stuff. And on and off in my relationship because JC and I we've been together for a long time. So he's seen everything. So it was like, you know, on and off and things. So I feel like my eyes open at the hospital. And a social worker came to me and she said, don't you want to have kids? I see you very young. Don't you want to have kids? When I get married, I'm like, I'm already married, because I was married at 21, got married at 21.
Wow.
She's like, but don't you look forward to having kids and having a nice future? I'm like, yeah, I actually want kids. She's like, then keep thinking about that. Focus on that. Focus on your future. And as she was saying that, I remember thinking, where did it come from? Like the disconnect, me thinking about my future and then me trying to end my life. Like it made no sense to me. And then at that point I made a decision. I'm like, I'm never going to get that hopeless again in my life for any reason. And I got angry. So when I came out, it was like I went all the way left, which was not also healthy. Because before I was just like moving through things, through things. But then I came out of the hospital, I'm like, oh, nobody's going to get in my way. So that wasn't good either.
You felt kind of fearless.
I was too fearless. I'm like, I'm going to do this. So it was like, I was defensive, always ready to tell somebody when they're wrong. Yeah. So, very outspoken about my dream.
So you redirected your anger.
I redirected that anger towards the life that I want to create for myself. And that was not healthy. It was not healthy for my marriage because we were still both very young. It was not healthy for me as a person. And it was not healthy. It started to get in my work because then when I became a supervisor, I was supervising other people, even though I was really great at my job, I would say. But my thing with like wanting things to be a certain way and like taking things like too personal and stuff kind of just get in the way of how I interact with other people. So then I met God again. At 29, I met God again. I started having nightmares and things, everything was going wrong. And then I had a dream where I was like looking for something. I was in my neighborhood, somewhere close and looking for someone. And then a man came and grabbed my hand and say, let me go show you your father. And the man took me in a building and I saw there was like a long line of people just waiting to see a man who's just sitting at a table. And I saw the man kind of just took me right to the man sitting at the table. And right when I get to him, he kind of just hold my hand. And I felt right when he held my hand, I felt like, this is my dad. This is my father.
Wow.
And I woke up and I started to be more interested in like reading the Bible. And I started calling God like Father, which it was just like God and Jesus. But I started like when I say Father, it's like a new meaning for me. And I felt like I have for the first time in my life, I felt like, this is someone that I can trust any day, anytime, any hour. So I'm good. And that became like a core for me. And kind of just keeping me together.
That's a great testimony.
Wow.
That's amazing. I had no idea. The funny thing is that a lot of people are like going through life and they kind of look like, oh my gosh, their life is perfect. They're achieving great things. They have a master's degree. They're smart. They're married. They have money, but they have some type of eternal stuff that they are facing within themselves, like some type of trauma, some type of childhood problem or daddy issues or whatever you may call it, that they're constantly battling. But we as people, we don't even see that. So is there a way where we can kind of like check in on our friend to kind of check in on their mental health? Like how do you go up, like if you had a friend during that time, do you feel like your friend actually knew that you were going through those hard times, or your friend probably thought you were fine? If you understand where I'm going with that question.
Great question.
Yeah. I think everybody knew that was fine.
Wow.
I think it was just a very isolating thing for me, for my life. The only person, I would say, not all of my friends, Jace is not included. He's the only person who knew that I was that I was not doing well. And because you know how we were raised, right? Or you know, a grandmother.
Definitely.
You have to be well behaved. Like, I'm never gonna go out. Like, nobody would ever catch me having an argument on the street with anybody. You're never gonna see my anger with anybody in my workplace, anybody in my church, like nothing outside. So everybody knew me as someone who's put together. So nobody noticed anything, and everybody was shocked. I mean, not everybody. People who knew was shocked. You know, like, what happened to her and things like that. Like, nobody knew anything of my business. In fact, the only people that I share things that happened to me was my husband. So for people, to what you say, how would I check on a friend? I would say we need to be mindful with how we're showing up. One thing that I do on my personal page, because I know I'm always announcing stuff. There is a part of me that's still like really into myself, but there is another part of me that's like very aware that I'm not all that. And I think that's very helpful to other women around you, because you're not necessarily going to take the phone and check on somebody. I'm not going to be like, hey, how's your mental health today? How are you doing today? How are you feeling today? What's up? And sometimes those people who are going through stuff, they don't want to talk to you either.
Yeah.
But if we are mindful on how we are showing up, people might just come up and open up to you and start to, I've had that happen on my page where, I show up as myself, and some other days I open up, and some other days I'm like, this is a kind of issue that I'm thinking about or I've experienced. This is how I deal with it. And people see that and they take the little bit that's for them.
Yeah.
And then later on, they're like, oh, you remember when you shared this? That was very helpful to me. That's checking in on somebody.
Yeah.
We think, I think the way we check on people, we think we have to get the phone, check on somebody and call them and say, hey, how are you doing? Or call. That's not always like, and I feel like as women too, mostly if you are someone who's successful, you need to be very mindful on how you're showing up. And there is that thing of, like when we are successful, oh, I'm just confident. I'm not going to dim my light for people. People are jealous of me. I think we need to move away from, because sometimes it's not about you dimming your life. It's about you understanding that this woman next to you is feeling like jealous or some type of way because they want to be there and they don't know how to ask you. They don't know how to approach you. They don't know where to start. And they feel like they want to be where you are. And they feel hopeless in their situation because you're unapproachable. So if we are mindful of these kind of things, then that changes the way that we show up in our environment, in our community. And we're not always going to get it right. You're still going to be your petty self. You're still going to be unapproachable in some way. But if you balance that, I'm not saying to put on a show for people. Like if you don't feel like doing it, don't do it because people will see it when you're faking it. But if you balance that, like I can still be confident. I can still feel successful. I can still talk about how I love my life, even though it's not perfect every day. But some other days I can just open up and tell you, this is what's happening. This is how you deal with it. Or this is what happened to me. This is how I dealt with it. And that vulnerability put people in a comfortable place where they can take the lesson for themselves or even tell you what's going on with them because you've created like a
safe space,
a presence, a safe space. Exactly. You've created a safe space where people can be like, you know what? I haven't been feeling well for the past few days. Can I talk to you for a minute? But if you always like, I'm successful, I'm confident, I'm not going to dim my light for you, get used to it. What are you saying to other women?
You talking reminding me of a show I was watching and I saw multiple times two women doing that.
Was it Young African and Millionaire?
Yes. There was that one, and then there was another one too. There was another one too, actually. It's another show. It was that one and another show. I can't recall which one. I was like, oh my gosh, why do women feel like they have to do that?
Too. Yeah. Like, yes, you're a boss lady, but you're in a circle of women, okay?
Yes.
And when you're in a circle of women, I feel like as women, you don't always have to compete. It's exhausting, you know?
It is.
Everybody know you're successful. Everybody know you have all of it together. Yeah. But there are moments where you need to kind of just like be.
Yeah.
And create the space for women to just be comfortable around you.
And she was going through the same thing.
And she went through the same thing. Yes, she's saying, oh, they have problem with me because I'm confident. When I walk into a room, people feel intimidated. I have walked, and I think the fact that you know that people can be intimidated by you should also be a reminder for you to create that safe space. Because I've been in a problem that I had with friendship is that I've always lost my friends. I always lose friends. I have friends, and then all of a sudden, we don't talk anymore. And it was like a pattern. And I always like, oh, you know, they feel intimidated. Like they can't deal with it. This is me. One point where I am in my life right now, the way that I am seeing it, I'm like, did I create that safe space, or was I on all the time?
Exactly.
You know how when you own all the time and everybody feel like little when they're around you?
Yeah.
Like if you always own.
Yeah, I get you.
Like, there's no space for me to come in and be myself around you and things.
That's true.
If you make that space, then maybe they feel like, you know, there's room for me to hang out. I can kind of just stay around and things. And there is the other side of this too. You don't always have to do that because you always have to care for yourself. You know, we are all different. At the end of the day, you know, you can't just try to be understanding. People also have to be understanding toward you as well.
That was so powerful. So powerful. I love everything you just said, but most importantly, I think it's so important for you to be self-aware. And I think that's what you're just basically telling us is that the self-awareness of what you're capable of, as well as knowing which environment you're in so that you can make people feel comfortable as well. Because that is not a quality that I feel like that's something you have to work on. Because it's not always, I don't think people want to work on that. They're like, oh, well, why do I have to be small? You have to come up to me. Like, you know, it's all...
and all of that to go down.
You have to go down. And you know what I realized? You know what I realized though, but even though what they don't understand is that, because we're Christian obviously, but Jesus literally had to humble himself a lot. Do you know who he is? Like, and he still humbled himself. And who are we?
And and another thing that's a highlight of everything you were talking about is the power of vulnerability. Like being vulnerable can save people's lives.
Yes.
If you're able to like humble yourself and be vulnerable, share your experiences, that's gonna make people be able to connect with you, and also you'll be able to save someone's life. We don't have to act like everything is perfect. The thing about this world that we live in, the whole social media, the platform of social media is for us to just show our perfect side all the time.
That is true.
So now, all we're seeing every day is people's perfect life. So we're thinking like, oh my gosh, like this person have it all and I'm struggling right now. But what we need to realize is that social media is fake. And I just wish that people start to be more vulnerable, because vulnerability is basically saving lives.
Yes,
you know?
Definitely.
Mostly with women. I think women have, and I have a perfect example of that. And there is another way that women can support women without having to say anything. If you're at a place and a man is trying to use you to put down another woman, you need to refuse any type of compliment. And the way that I'm saying that is that sometimes people will use us against each other.
Yes.
And you think it's a compliment. Like, it's not a compliment to me if you are doing it to put down the sister next to me.
Yep.
You know? And I think as women, we're all competitive at the end of the day. That's fine. But I think sometimes the way to support each other is just like
standing up
in the little thing. It's not always saying, "Oh, I support your sister," or "Hey, don't do that to her," or advocate for her. But it's the little thing. I remember one time I went to a double date, a dinner, and then the girl was just like, you know, she was ordering something, and then her date was like, "Well, you're gonna eat all that," and like I felt like, because she was getting with at that point, and I felt like it was dismissive toward her, and I intentionally order more food. Because, you know, I don't have to say, "Hey, don't talk to her like that," or "Hey, don't say that." You don't always have to voice it. Sometimes you just show support without having to say, "Hey, we are bestie. I understand you." So I ordered food, and I'm like, "Yeah, we need to eat. We need strength." And then it becomes like less of a thing where it was just her probably gonna feel very bad about it later. You change, we turn the whole situation into something funny and fun.
Right.
And I think we don't do these kind of things enough. And I am learning to do these things like more, like you don't always have to say, "Oh, hey sis," or advocate and, you know, get the thing and start marching. You support your sister sometimes even by not saying it.
That is very true. Very true. Wow. I feel like we're learning so many gems from you, Pat. And also, I know you also have the La Dissension Co. company, which you're doing so amazing. Like, you're doing an amazing job with that. And what are some tips you want to give women? Because I know your audience is, you know, mostly women and children. What are some tips you can give women now that are battling with some type of mental illness or mental issues or things that are stopping them from being the best version of themselves? What are some tips? Like, what are 3 great tips you can leave those women with so that they can take care of their mental health and wellness or in general?
One thing that I always recommend is go in. Whenever you feel like you're struggling a lot, and the way that you do that is put down for myself, it works on paper, but some people might think, you know, they have to record or they have to talk to someone about it. Put down all of these things that you feel like that you're struggling with, and things that make you feel really bad about yourself, and like kind of just make a list of these things so you can see them for what they are. And once you know where the toxic things are, if you can kind of just remove them or avoid them or improve on them, or if there are people, stay away from those people. Like, don't be afraid to cut off people and move on and withdraw from any kind of like networking that's not supportive of you. Because sometimes we are sucking on things we don't even realize it. You know,
that's
you're
very
feeling
true.
bad about yourself. And it's not even because you're not doing well. It's because you have so many friends bragging all the time. Because, you know, and if you don't go in, I'm like, okay, so I've been feeling very shitty about myself. What's happening? You know, where is this coming from? What are the things when I'm around them, I don't feel well. I don't feel good. And then once you know what they are, you have to make that list. And once you know what they are, then you can be like, okay, so it's that girl, it's that person, it's that place, it's that ice cream, whatever it is, you pinpoint that.
Yeah.
And I guess the second thing would be to find something to hold on to. And that could be in form of like support. That could be in form of like getting professional help. That could be writing. It could be a coping skill, something that you do. And I remember Obel was reminded me of that. I tell people that, and she's like, "What do you do for yourself?" Or, you know, when I'm going through anxiety, she's like, "What did you do for yourself this week?" Once you have something to hold on to, then I can always go back to that thing. And I don't suggest making that thing a person, because the thing with having a person as your center or your core, if it's not God, that you can always go to. People are not always available for you. And people are always changing. Maybe I think I'm coming all vulnerable and we're not going to have, a feeling moment where you understand me. And that person is thinking about their own problem and they're not able to give you what you need for that moment. Then you feel offended and worse than the way that you were. So it can't always be a person. And for me, it's reading the Bible or asking God to talk to me, or praying and praise and worship. These kind of things help. You have to have something that you can go back to, even when you don't feel like it. And the last thing that I would say would be, start making a plan of where you want to go. Because sometimes the best way to get out of a bad place or feeling hopeless is to start looking toward what you want that to be, what you want your life to be, and what is it that you want. Because if you're saying like, I'm hopeless, I'm discouraged, I don't know what to do, but you don't have any place to be, then your body and your feelings are saying, there's nothing out there for you. You're not going anywhere anyway. But if I have a place that I want to be, and that's kind of like what the social worker told me, like, do you want to have children in the future? Like, if I have a place to be, then even if I'm discouraged, even if somebody just insulted me and I just got fired, but I have a place to be, people are just mocking me, making fun of me, but I have a place to be. So you kind of like, I can keep moving along, moving through the dirty stuff because I have somewhere that I want to be. And it's always important for that to be like a future plan. That would be like the 3 things that I can think of right now to share.
Well said.
Well said. Beautiful.
Well, we want to get to the fun part.
Yes. Yes, the fun part.
Obel has some good question. We usually like to play a game with our guests. So Obel will kind of lead us with that.
Yes. So just it's going to be fun. And I feel like for the most part, I pick questions that we really don't know because, I mean, we know you, but there's certain things that we might not know, but it's going to be fun. Just, it's going to be a fun ride. So
I like to keep my answer short.
The game is actually for us mostly, and then you kind of answer. So what it is that my sister and I, we're going to act, have I ever, but we're going to have Patricia ever done this, right? And then me and my sister will guess whether or not she have. And and you have to keep a serious face because you can't answer yet. And then we guess. And then you're going to tell us who's correct. And then tell us the story behind it if there is one. Ooh. If you have one. Okay? So we're going to...
I'm nervous.
It's not gonna. I mean, some of them gonna be embarrassing, but they're not gonna be that bad. Okay, it's not gonna be that bad. We'll see. And if you feel uncomfortable, just give us the wink, and I'll change the question.
By the way, you're a married woman, so we're gonna go a little bit raunchy. I'm kidding.
I'm done. Oh
my goodness.
Let's go. All right. First question. Have Patricia ever gone skinny dipping? I'm going to say no. What about you, Nana?
I'm going to say yes. I like to think that she has.
All right. So now it's your turn, Patricia.
Define skinny dipping. I kind of know what it is, but I want to be sure before
So basically, if you ever been to a beach and you took out all your clothes.
Or a pool. It doesn't have to be a beach.
Or a pool and jump in the water.
Just naked.
Naked and just swimming away.
No. Obel.
All right. Yes. Points on me.
Maybe to the bathtub.
You lived in Old Cobb. How come you did not do that?
You see, I didn't know, but because
you sure you didn't do that in Old Cobb?
Not all the way, though.
Exactly.
But
not all the way. Skinny dipping would be like removing everything.
Everything. No? Yes, no pennies, no.
You took out your bra.
No, it's not skinny dipping.
But not
the skinny dipping. No. Like
skinny dipping.
That's not skinny dipping. You know what skinny dipping is?
Cheating. It was in I actually put that in my novel.
That's why I said
steamy novel that I wrote a while ago.
By the way. Was it in your book? Was it in your book, the book that you wrote that I read?
Yeah, the one that you read. Yeah,
and
I put
Beautiful Sunshine.
something like that where they were bathing in the river and stuff, and they didn't have any tops on.
By the way, that's why I said that, because I remember reading your book and I'm like, I don't know if the main character is her, but I'm just going to assume that it is. So I'm going to be like, yes. So what's the main character? I wanted to ask you that.
Oh
like,
my God.
What's the main character you in the book?
Not all the way. I did some changes, to make it juicy. Obviously I did not marry someone who sells coffee, who's a farmer, but it's part of my story.
Thank God. Because I remember telling you, like, I don't know, I have a love-hate relationship with the main character. And then you're like, really? So I'm like, oh man, that really meant like it might be her.
I'm dead.
The behavior aspect of it, like the stuff. So but the behavioral aspect of it is very much me. And I did have that experience in Paul Margot. Like the whole thing. And I went to Jacmel, but that didn't happen because that was like a church camp. Nobody can remove it.
Yeah.
In Paul Margot, there is like this, this little bassin, they call them, where it was just girls, just us, just me and two other girls. We were there just bathing, and then we removed our tops. We went in the little river just with our panties, and then boys started to pass by. And then a bunch of fans started to be, it's like all of a sudden, people were passing by. And then I didn't feel embarrassed. At first I was like, oh, people are coming. And then when I see the other girls were just like, I'm like, okay.
Comfortable, yeah.
Honest, that happens a lot. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So let's move on. Naiko, trying to get to the point. It's okay. There's a lot more. There's like 4 more questions. So you get a chance to get a point. Never have Patricia ever sang karaoke. You answer first, Naika, since you want a point so bad. Maybe you get this.
Sing karaoke?
Yeah. Has she done karaoke before?
I do karaoke at home. So I'm assuming people do so too.
No. Has she ever sang karaoke somewhere, like actually went out and did karaoke like we do, like the stuff? Like that's the question. I mean, karaoke can be done at home too, I know, but that's not karaoke if we just singing to a song that we love. Karaoke is actually having the mic and then you singing with the...
I would say, that's a hard one. I would say no.
I'm gonna say yes this time around.
Oh, Belle is right. I did it twice.
I don't like that. I'll talk to you every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours.
Pat. I knew she was going to say that, but Pat, I ask you those questions?
No.
It's not exactly. Not asking her those questions. That's why like, I'm going out tonight. I'm going to go.
Never. And she wouldn't, because at that time, we weren't that close.
Exactly.
Because it was even before Jake Chloe, actually. Oh, I have a funny story.
Okay, it
was before Jake Chloe.
I knew she was going to try to use my closeness to you as if I'm cheating, but I purposely chose answers that I absolutely know nothing about, but because I only know her, I'm guessing based on her.
I have a question.
Would you like to hear the story?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So the first time was with my girlfriends at that time in New York. We went to New York City, and we were supposed to go to some lounge and stuff. Yes, I used to go out to lounges. And then
fancy.
And then the night went bad for personal reasons. And we ended up at a place where we did not choose, a karaoke place. And then, they bought us like finger food. That was the first time, but the second time. So I had this friend in college. We were very comfortable with each other. We were in like same class. We were in honors club together. And I really like her. And I feel like she liked me too. And we went. She's like, oh, I'm preparing that thing where we can go out and stuff. We go to Central Park in New York. So we went biking. And that was that. And another time she invited me, she's like, oh, let's go get dinner. So I told my husband that I'm supposed to go out and to dinner with a friend in college and stuff. So we went out and we got pizza. to a place, Pizza and Wine, very fancy. And then we went to a karaoke place after that. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy sitting at the bar. That was back then. Mm-hmm. And the guy was like, well, you both are so beautiful and stuff. Like, when I kind of just want like approaching the both of us together. Mm-hmm. And she says, I wouldn't mind. And at that point, I started to put two and two together.
Yes, I just did too. That's why I was like, ménage à trois.
No, not just that. Like, it's almost like, when you're watching this movie and then at the end, and then the main actor realize everything that's been happening. It's like that person close to you. I'm like, hold up, let me rewind. And I'm like, okay, she's not friendly. Like, she's into me.
Wow. Oh my God.
And I remember telling that to a coworker. Mm-hmm. I mean, two coworkers at lunchtime one time, and then they're like, hold on, you guys went biking to Central Park and you never had any idea? I'm like, it's a girlfriend. She said, let's go biking to Central Park. They're like,
oh my gosh,
you never suspected anything. Somebody tell you, let's go biking to Central Park.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was a thing. So that was a thing in New York. Like, if you go biking in Central Park, then the person is basically...
I don't even think it was a thing, but I guess it was like a string of things. Even though you do these things with your girlfriend, but...
Yeah.
At that point, I'm like,
You started looking back.
I started to scratch my neck. I'm like, you know what? I should probably go back home.
Mm-hmm.
But we did karaoke that night. We sang, and then I'm like, you know what? Let's go back home.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's fun,
so you took her on home at the end of the night.
Okay, let's make this clear. I did not take a woman home with me.
You told her, let's wrap up the karaoke and go back home. That's what I heard.
We're not about to start fire on this podcast, okay? We're not about to start fire. Oh, Lord.
I have a question.
My God.
Okay, Nana, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Did Patricia ever want to be a doctor when she was younger? I'll start. I'll say yes.
I think yes, too. Because of the medical. Yeah, I think everybody at some point wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah, I got it.
She was fetching that point. Okay, so let's do our last question for double points.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's do our last question for double points because we have to wrap it up with our time. It's getting late. She got babies. So
just sleeping.
All right. Have Patricia ever used someone else's toothbrush?
Oh my God. Okay, I give it away.
You give it away? Okay, let's change it.
I was going to say absolutely not. Do you know her husband?
Exactly. That would have been too easy. That would have been too easy.
Oh, if I were to do that, my husband would probably be like, okay, we're not together anymore.
He would disown you. He would disown you.
Dead. Okay.
Children.
Oh, Lord. That's so funny. Okay, let me ask another question. I know you give it away. That is so disgusting, but it's okay. People actually, I'm thinking about someone who actually did that before, but anyway.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I have two questions. Have Patricia ever fought in public and have Patricia ever crashed a wedding? Which one do you want to go with, Nana?
Fought in public.
Okay. Oh my God.
You go first, Obel.
All right, so have Patricia ever fought in public? I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say yes too because she said she was feisty and she always want to have a little quick mouth. I'm
thinking if you're born in OCAP, you had a fight at some point in your life.
Fighting in public?
Yeah, throw hands or verbal with a classmate or something.
Somebody.
In my high school days.
Let's talk about it.
So, okay. I guess let me explain, okay? First of all, I'm a good girl.
Kevin Hart yourself, girl. Kevin Hart yourself through this story. Let me explain.
I don't like fighting, in public with people and things. And there was a point where I was like, I think I was very naive. And then when I started to switch that, then I was like, don't mess with me in high school. I had that attitude of don't mess with me. So there was a time where I was a little cliquey. I had a clique. It was 3 of us, 3 girls. And then the whole class actually had a problem with us. I don't remember what it was about. And there was a girl who was, I remember that day, she was just saying stupid stuff. And I remember it was like recreation and stuff, I guess. I remember standing in the classroom and putting her in her place. And people were talking at the same time.
Lord knows what happened next.
So yeah. So no, nothing happened. I did not get into a fight. Hold on. In high school too, there was a time where that happened. But then after that, it never happened again. I was very, like, I was a child. I didn't even know it was going to happen. But then that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I still won, Nana. Sorry. It was so nice having you, Pat. Like, I think this was the funnest podcast so far because I guess we know you and your family, but it was a pleasure to have you on. And we're so excited. And we want you to tell the people where they can follow you. If you have your businesses, name them all so that they can go ahead and go purchase. And go ahead, tell us about your businesses and where they can find you on social media.
So find me on social media on my personal page at Patricia M. Desert. And then find my business page at La Distinction Co. But most importantly, go to ladistinctionco.com to buy planners or gift box that is gift boxes that are faith-based and mugs and all of those beautiful things that I created myself and curated myself. So the website is ladistinctionco.com and the page is at La Distinction Co. Very easy.
Very, very easy, guys. That's awesome. Guys, don't forget to go check those links out. They're great. I have some of the products myself, so they're very useful. So go go grab yourself one. And thank you so much, Pat, for being here with us. And it was fun having you.
You and Nana is like, I feel like you guys are like, my sisters. Of course, all of my cousins are my sisters, but you guys, we have history.
Yes, we do. Sorry, other cousins, we have that effect.
I feel like I love you guys so much. You are doing such a good job with this. I cannot wait until you start talking about young African and millionaires, so I can come on. I'm invited myself, just so you know. If you didn't
Definitely coming back on. Definitely coming back on for that one.
Thank you,
cuz.
This was a good conversation, and we just are happy to have you back again.